Back pain doesn't just hurt, it hijacks your life. I mean, one minute you're tying your shoes, the next you're avoiding stairs, you're skipping workouts, you're sleeping like crap, and saying no to things that you used to love. And here's the kicker. It rarely starts with some dramatic injury. It creeps in slow and sneaky from how you sit, how you move, how you train or don't. And if you ignore it, that little ache turns into a permanent limitation. It steals strength, confidence, freedom, and worst of all, it makes you feel fragile, but it doesn't have to. I've been there, and what I learned changed everything. All right, first thing I want to preface is I am not a doctor. I'm not a pain specialist. I don't study pain. I don't really know anything other than just being someone who's been in the gym for a really long time. And I've experienced pain firsthand in a number of different ways. And I've had to manage it. I've had to deal with it, in different ways. And this particular video, I want to talk about back pain and my experience with back pain. And this sucks.
It's not very deep. And Davis comes up to about...
I used to play football. I got beat up, banged up a lot. You can imagine slamming into other people at full speeds for the first 15 years of your life probably isn't a great thing to do for your brain or for your body. I think it's been pretty well studied that there's some, down the year effects that I'm probably experiencing now that were probably caused from, playing football, being reckless, and slamming myself into other human beings as fast as I can over and over again every day for a really long period of time. So you can imagine, with that being my background, pain, I have a very weird relationship with pain. I have a tendency to associate pain with gain, right? Like you hear pain is good. Pain means that you're getting better. Pain means that you're challenging your limits.
Come on, Kyle, come on.
4, 3. And here's the weird thing about pain. Sometimes that's true. Like it is true that in order to evolve, you need to push yourself in a way that maybe you haven't before. You have to do it safely, or else you're going to shut yourself down and you're not going to be able to adapt and grow and get better. You're just going to have a setback and have to start all over again. So there is something to being able to handle discomfort, but recognizing when you are in actual danger versus when you're pushing your limits and giving yourself a chance to experience a type of stimulus that you haven't before so that you can adapt and respond to that stimulus and grow. And I think the two get very confusing. It's not super clear. When are you experiencing pain? And that indicates that you shouldn't be continuing. When are you experiencing pain? What does the pain feel like when it's completely what you should be feeling? And you should continue to lean into it. I'll do my best to maybe share how I think about it and, how I experience it. The pain is getting real. Which is good. First, I suffer from back pain. I have suffered for a while, maybe as long as I can remember. When I was growing up, usually I would have a back incident from a serious event. So I would fall out of a tree. I'd be, playing a sport. I'd have a major impact. My back would be injured. And, I wouldn't be able to stand up. I wouldn't be able to operate. I wouldn't be able to live my normal life. Later in life, this maybe in my mid-20s, is when I started having back events when nothing happened. Like I'd be just getting up off sitting down, or I'd like reach into the cupboard for, reach across for a plate, and all of a sudden my back would go out and I would be out for days, weeks at a time. And, I didn't really think too much of it back then. I just thought, this is like kind of strange that it's happening out of nowhere. And at the time, in my early 20s, I would try to just push through it. I was a tough guy. I was used to pain. It can't really stop me. It's just a decision in my mind. Looking back at that probably wasn't the move. And it's important, like where we're at in the story now, or at least in my story, to recognize not all pain means that there's an injury. And not all injuries mean that there's going to be pain. There's accounts of people, getting their fingers chopped off in lawnmowers, and their adrenaline being so high that they weren't even aware that their finger had gotten chopped off and not feeling anything in that moment. There's also, experiences. Have you ever heard of like fibromyalgia, or there's different um, ailments, there's different diseases where people are experiencing extreme amounts of real pain, but there not being any physiological injury associated with that pain. So our bodies are weird, man, and the wiring can get messed up. Later when I was in my 30s, and I'd have these recurring back issues that come up, I was recommended to read this book, Healing Back Pain by Dr. John Sorno, and he's a back expert. I don't think he's with us anymore, but his whole life was dedicated to back pain and backs and spines and the spinal joint. And he points out a few really interesting ideas. And one is that back pain, back issues is a fairly recent phenomenon, might just be a cultural phenomenon. People didn't really complain about their backs until recently. And recently, maybe like I don't remember exactly, maybe like the 70s and 80s. And he pointed out how, if you go back far enough, maybe 50s, 60s, everyone was complaining about their ulcer. No one was complaining about their back. And then something shifted and less people complained about ulcers. You don't really hear people complaining about ulcers that much anymore. But think how many people you hear complaining about their backs. And there's an interesting thing going on. Maybe we're sitting more. Maybe that's contributing to it. But it's strange that like so many people are experiencing back pain, and there's not much of a historical record of people, having the same sorts of back pain over time. The other thing that he points out is the spine is an incredibly tough joint, like maybe the most tough joint in the body. You've heard of herniated discs, you've heard of slip discs or bulging discs. He kind of says everybody has those. Like if you opened up anybody, at the end of their life, like maybe after they've passed, and you inspected their spine, you would find that everyone has slip disc, bulging disc, herniated discs. I have never done this myself. I'm not a medical doctor. I've never opened up a cadaver. I'm just going off of what I remember from this book. So, take it from a grain of salt, and, maybe read the book, maybe do your own research. But the point of it is it flipped the script of my mind and in what I thought pain was telling me. And, the initial thought is I have this serious, severe back pain and it's shutting me down. I'm broken. There's something broken in my back that probably needs to be surgically fixed, or else I'm going to be experiencing this worse and worse for the rest of my life. And knowing that that's not necessarily the case, that, pain can come even when there's not an actual injury. I'm not saying that, if you're experiencing back pain that you don't have an injury, but I am saying that there are cases, and plenty of cases, where people don't have a severe back injury. They haven't been in a car accident. They didn't fall out of a 4-story building, but they are truly experiencing the type of pain that you might experience had you been in a traumatic injury. So, and there's something that's really, really scary about back pain, because you can't do anything. It's at the core of you. It affects everything upstream, downstream. It hurts if you're just laying down. It can feel tight. So it's deeply personal, deeply emotional, and deeply individual. In the book, he speaks of this idea of tension really being the culprit, and that our bodies can perceive threat and manifest the threat as pain and as tension in our bodies. And his recommendation for a lot of back pain is just expressing yourself. So like writing, running, getting healthy. I don't know if it was actually running or not, but it was definitely writing, therapy, expressing yourself, that this idea that, the tension that we hold in our bodies from the fear, the emotional fear of life, often can be manifested in pain in our bodies. And this sort of like tension cause pain. And in understanding pain this way, in creating this story, it helped take the fear out of the whole equation. And look, I still have my back flare ups. I had one about a year ago that probably lasted like 2, 3 weeks. I remember I had a flare up about 3 years ago that I feel like kind of slowly crept away after almost a month. But it's rough when it happens. And I have not found a way to like fix it instantly. But I do have some at least personal recommendations that I would tell myself when my back starts to flare up. The first is to slow down. A lot of times when it happens, it seems to coincide when I'm under the most stress, when shit is hitting the fan, when like there's stuff being thrown at our business, or there's stuff being thrown at us personally, or I'm under some sort of financial stress or a financial deadline. So when it starts coming, I think the key for me is take a step back, slow down. You might be pushing something down. You might be ignoring something that you shouldn't be, that you should be taking action on in your life. So you might be pushing yourself a little bit too hard in the gym and in your training alongside the stresses in your life, and you're not really able to recover from it. You're not able to bounce back from it. The first is to slow down, particularly if I feel it coming on. Self-care, showers. I know it sounds crazy, but like showering every day really seems to help. Staying on top of my finances really seems to help. Getting my work done really seems to help. So like the things that have really helped me haven't always necessarily been, rolling it out or doing a particular exercise, but really just taking care of my life, taking care of my shit, getting my stuff done. That's been probably like my step one. Now, if it keeps sticking around, I can't let this stop me from my exercise routine. And when I say routine, I mean the routine of going to work on myself physically. The worst thing that you can do is just ignore it and make it worse. You're just going to dig a worse hole, or maybe it won't for you, but this is the advice that I'd be giving myself is, Kyle, the worst thing that you can do is just ignore it and push through. You're going to make it way worse. You are going to set yourself back even further. You're going to be dealing with this longer than you need to. But it's a good idea to stay moving. You should keep up your routine of taking that hour and working on yourself. So I would not tell myself to stop going to the gym. I would not, unless the pain is so severe that I can't walk across the street. I can't get out of bed. And if it is that bad, like that's probably the level where you need to just stay in your back and chill and relax until it eases up some. If you can stand up, go and dedicate some time to working on it. And when you do work on it, I think the right move, or at least like the move that I would recommend to myself, is to work in ranges where you aren't feeling pain. Work with resistances where you do not feel pain. There seems to be an effect where the more you feel the pain, it's almost like a tuning fork, and it reactivates the pain and kind of resets the ding and the length of that pain over time. So let your body work it out. Don't reset the tuning fork. Don't hit it again, and don't reactivate. A good thing to do, a good place to start is, if you can, take an empty bar. If it's not even an empty bar, you can take an empty PVC pipe, or, just a fake imaginary implement, and work through patterns where very slowly, where you have to use and activate your back, like go through the RDL or a deadlift pattern where with a very light load, very light weight, if any weight at all, work through it really slowly and do an assessment. Is this causing pain? Is this making it worse? And if it's not, after a set of maybe 10 very slow reps, then maybe add a little bit more. always be cognizant of, is this reactivating that threat sensation? Am I feeling danger? Am I feeling that, like, that sharp sort of pain that's saying, like, back off, don't do this? If it just feels a little bit rusty and maybe just a little bit tight, you're probably safe. Or that's what I would tell myself. It's like, you're probably safe. Just slow down and be conservative. The most important thing with back pain for me is keeping a positive attitude and not letting it shut down my approach toward the world and not giving in to despair. There's a lot of things that are under my control. The pain itself is indicating to me that I might need to just be taking better care of my situation and myself, maybe handling things I've been putting off, and that I just need to give a little bit of love, a little bit of attention, and some patience, and just let my body kind of catch up to equilibrium. I don't know anybody. I don't know you. I don't know what your case is. I'm definitely not an expert. I have researched everything online of do this, do that, from like really smart people that really know what they're talking about. I've worked with really smart people that I highly respect and have definitely helped me kind of work through my back pain. But I don't believe that there is a one fix for this. I don't think that there's one thing that everyone can do and it's just going to fix it. The reality is everybody's different. Everybody's pain is different and it's caused by different things. And you have to figure it out for yourself. And, there are some general rules that I think apply to everyone. Like if you feel pain, don't make it worse. You're only going to set yourself back. Don't ignore it. Pain is trying to tell you something. It's part of having a body. And it's what keeps us from killing ourselves in many different ways, because it tells us, hey, this is dangerous and you shouldn't keep doing that. I wish I had something that was just work for everyone. And I wish I just had the solution for everyone. Best solution I have is the advice that you are powerful, you are capable, you can handle this. What you're experiencing is yours to fix and you can do it. You just need to be patient, listen to your body, do the work that it takes to figure it all out. You got this. I believe in you.